You are being legally robbed every single second, and the government is holding the door open. The cash in your wallet isn't wealth. It's a lethal, engineered illusion designed to keep you poor. Watch until the end, because the terrifying truth about your money will shatter your reality. Have you ever stared into the hollow, defeated eyes of a homeless person shivering under a concrete overpass? Or watched your own parents grind themselves into an early grave just to pay off suffocating debt? In those moments of quiet despair, perhaps during a time of youthful naivety, a rebellious and seemingly magical thought probably flashed through your mind. It felt like the greatest, most humane revelation in the history of mankind. Why doesn't the government simply print an endless ocean of money and give it to everyone? Why not fire up those colossal money printers, run them at maximum capacity 24 hours a day, and transform every struggling citizen's pathetic bank balance into millions of dollars? In that sparkling, utopian dream, everyone gets a house, everyone drives a luxury car, and nobody ever has to go to sleep hungry again. It sounds beautiful, does it not? But the naked, terrifying truth of macroeconomics is that these beautiful, pink-tinted dreams are always the prelude to the most blood-soaked financial nightmares. The Wealth Ladder US 6 warmly welcomes you to reality. We do not stroke tedious illusions here. We peel back the skin of the financial world to expose its most brutal, unforgiving truths. If you are brave enough to confront these realities, please hit that subscribe button right now to support the channel and give us the driving force to uncover even more hidden mechanisms of wealth in our upcoming videos. Now, imagine the government actually surrendered to your brilliant idea. You wake up tomorrow morning, your phone chimes, and you see that $10 million has just been deposited directly into your account. A massive, unprecedented dose of financial oxygen is pumped straight into the dying veins of the economy. Congratulations, you are instantly rich. You rush out the door in a frenzy, throwing cash at real estate, swiping your card for a supercar without even a fleeting glance at the price tag. The entire population is doing the exact same thing, and a manic, intoxicating euphoria consumes the nation. But I need you to listen to me very carefully. That euphoria is nothing more than the dead cat bounce of an economy that has just stepped into its own grave. Within a matter of days, or perhaps mere hours, you will collide with a catastrophic reality. You will stand in a grocery store, clutching your $10 million, only to realize that it cannot buy you a single loaf of bread. Pumping infinite paper money into the system does not magically erase poverty. Instead, it detonates a desperate, cannibalistic survival mechanism across every supply chain on Earth. The very concept of currency violently collapses. The cash you are holding is instantly reduced to a worthless, floating illusion on paper. Pressing the print button to solve poverty is not an act of political compassion. It is a foolproof recipe for dragging a sovereign nation straight into the abyss. It is the fastest, most sinister method ever devised to rob the working class of their sweat and tears, leaving an entire society suffocating to death beneath mountains of useless cash. Why does this cruel paradox exist? Why does having more money fundamentally make us poorer? It is time to lock away your emotional ideals, because we are about to dissect the merciless, cold-blooded nature of supply and demand. To understand why that freshly printed mountain of cash suddenly cannot buy a single loaf of bread, we must first strip away the illusion of currency and look at the brutal, unyielding physics of human labor and scarce resources. Money, in its truest form, is not wealth. It is merely a physical or digital receipt for human energy. It is a social contract, a measuring stick that we use to represent the time, sweat, and ingenuity it takes to pull raw materials out of the earth and forge them into something useful. When a farmer spends months tilling soil, planting seeds and harvesting wheat, he creates actual, tangible value. There is a finite amount of that wheat, a finite amount of steel to build cars, and a finite amount of timber and brick to build homes. Now, introduce the government's magical printing press into this delicate, finite ecosystem. The moment the central bank floods your account, and everyone else's, with millions of newly conjured dollars, they have not miraculously created more wheat, steel, or timber. They have not added a single drop of actual value to the world. They have simply multiplied the number of paper receipts, aggressively chasing the exact same amount of physical goods. It is a terrifying game of musical chairs where the music has abruptly stopped, and millions of people are violently fighting over a handful of seats. The immediate consequence is an economic whiplash of epic proportions. The farmer, the factory owner, and the landlord instantly realize that the paper money being thrust into their hands has been fundamentally diluted. To protect their own survival, they must violently adjust their prices upward to match the new, bloated money supply. If there is 10 times more money in circulation, the price of that loaf of bread must multiply by 10 just to retain its intrinsic value. The brutal law of supply and demand does not care about political promises or utopian dreams of universal wealth. It is a mathematical absolute. When you artificially inflate demand without a parallel explosion in production, you do not elevate the poor. You simply destroy the purchasing power of the currency, turning what used to be a reliable measure of human labor into a meaningless, fluctuating joke. This merciless rebalancing of supply and demand is not just a chalkboard theory. It has left a trail of shattered nations and starving populations throughout modern history, serving as a grim warning we continuously ignore. We do not need to rely on hypothetical scenarios to see the devastation of the money printer, because human history is littered with the corpses of fiat currencies that thought they could outsmart economics. Look closely at the haunting black and white photographs of Weimar Germany in the 1920s. You will see children stacking bricks of essentially worthless cash just to build playhouses in the street, while their parents frantically rushed to bakeries with wheelbarrows overflowing with paper marks, praying the price of bread had not doubled again during their short walk. People literally burned their national currency in their fireplaces because the paper it was printed on was cheaper than actual firewood. Do not make the arrogant mistake of thinking this is an ancient, unrelatable phenomenon. Fast forward to Zimbabwe in the late 2000s, where the government printed $100 trillion notes that could barely buy a bus ticket. Look at the tragic, ongoing collapse of Venezuela, a nation sitting on the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, entirely hollowed out because its leaders decided to print their way out of structural deficits. In every single instance, the sequence of destruction is identical. It starts with a government trying to fund wars, buy political favor, or cover up massive debts without raising taxes. They spin the printing presses, whispering that it is a temporary fix. But the addiction to free money is absolute. Hyperinflation takes hold, and the very fabric of society unravels. It is not just about the numbers on a price tag. It is about the catastrophic death of human dignity. When money dies, trust dies. Contracts become meaningless. Pensions that honest people worked 40 years to accumulate are wiped out in a single afternoon. The middle class is instantly pushed into the gutters, and desperate citizens are forced to resort to bartering, crime, and cannibalistic survival tactics just to feed their children. The money printer does not just destroy the economy, it actively destroys the moral core of a nation, pitting neighbor against neighbor in a frantic scramble for the last remaining scraps of real, physical value. Yet, amidst this historical wreckage, the most sickening realization is that the money printer does not ruin everyone equally. In fact, it is specifically designed to enrich a select few at the catastrophic expense of the masses. If inflation were an equal opportunity destroyer, it would be a tragedy. But the reality is much more sinister. Inflation is a targeted, engineered theft. To understand the true villainy of printing money, you must understand a phenomenon known as the Cantillon effect. First observed by an 18th century economist, this principle exposes the cold, hard truth that newly created money does not enter the economy evenly. It is injected at the very top of the financial pyramid. When the central bank pushes that print button, the first entities to receive those billions of fresh, undevalued dollars are the government, the megabanks, and the elite corporate insiders. At this exact moment, prices in the broader economy have not yet risen. These elites take this massively powerful, newly minted currency and aggressively buy up hard assets, real estate, stocks, gold, and corporations. By the time they have locked away all the tangible wealth, this new money begins to bleed out into the wider economy. As it slowly trickles down to the small business owner, the mechanic, and the single mother working 2 shifts, the inevitable inflation has finally taken hold. The cost of living explodes. The working class finally receives their meager pay raise, but it is far too late. The price of rent, groceries, and gasoline has already doubled. They are mathematically poorer than they were before the money was printed. This is the dark magic of the fiat system. It is a reverse Robin Hood mechanism that legally and invisibly drains the purchasing power of your savings account and transfers it directly into the portfolios of the ultra-rich. You do not see a thief breaking into your house to steal your cash, so you do not call the police. But the theft is happening every single second of every single day. Inflation is an invisible regressive tax levied on the poor and the middle class, specifically punishing those who work for a wage and try to save their money in a bank. Knowing that this system is engineered to extract your wealth, you must now look at our current financial landscape through an entirely different, highly unforgiving lens. We are no longer living in an era where hyperinflation is just a cautionary tale confined to history books and distant, mismanaged republics. The disease is already coursing through the veins of the modern Western world. Today, they do not call it printing money. They hide behind sterile, complicated jargon like quantitative easing, liquidity injections, and modern monetary theory. But a poison by any other name is still a poison. You are feeling it right now when you walk down the aisle of your local supermarket and notice that the packaging is shrinking while the price tag is skyrocketing. You feel it when you realize that a starter home, which your parents could afford on a single blue-collar salary, is now completely out of reach for a dual-income household with college degrees. The middle class is being systematically hollowed out, and if you continue to play by the old rules, working hard, saving fiat currency in a traditional bank account, and trusting the government to protect your purchasing power, you will be crushed beneath the wheels of this inflationary machine. The only way to survive this silent financial war is to completely rewire how you perceive value. You must stop hoarding the paper illusion and start acquiring the physical reality. True wealth is not measured in dollars, euros, or yen. It is measured in scarcity. It is found in scarce assets that the government cannot print out of thin air. Productive businesses, prime real estate, precious metals, and uninflatable digital commodities. You must become financially militant. You must educate yourself on the mechanics of money, or you will forever remain a pawn in a game rigged by central bankers. At the Wealth Ladder US 6, we are committed to handing you the blueprint to navigate this economic storm. We will continue to tear down the comfortable lies of mainstream finance and equip you with the brutal truths required to build generational wealth in a dying fiat system. Do not let them steal the time and energy you have traded your life for. Wake up, take control of your financial destiny, and refuse to be a victim of the lethal illusion of the money printer. In the end, the seductive allure of the money printer is nothing more than a devastating financial mirage. When governments and central banks artificially flood the system with fiat currency, they do not create wealth. They merely dilute the value of human labor and orchestrate the greatest, most invisible wealth transfer in history. As the Cantillon effect dictates, those closest to the monetary spigot, the elites and megacorporations, absorb the purchasing power before prices inevitably skyrocket, leaving the middle and working classes to bear the crushing weight of inflation. History, from Weimar Germany to Zimbabwe and Venezuela, serves as a glaring, tragic testament to this inescapable mathematical reality. When money is violently debased, the very fabric of society unravels, eroding trust, dignity, and decades of hard-earned savings. We are witnessing this exact phenomenon today, masked behind complex economic jargon, as the cost of basic survival spirals out of reach for the average citizen. To blindly trust this rigged fiat system is to surrender your financial future. The ultimate takeaway is that money is simply a receipt for your time and energy, and holding on to a currency that can be endlessly printed is a guaranteed path to impoverishment. You must break free from the illusion that saving paper currency will protect you. Instead, you must radically shift your mindset and protect your labor by anchoring it to reality, securing your wealth in scarce, tangible assets that cannot be conjured out of thin air by a central bank. True wealth is measured by scarcity, not by the arbitrary numbers sitting in a bank account. Inflation is not a natural economic weather event. It is a deliberate, engineered mechanism that legally drains the purchasing power of the financially unaware. If your survival strategy relies on trading your finite time for an infinitely printable currency, you are mathematically guaranteed to lose. Stop treating traditional savings accounts as safe havens. Immediately transition from being a hoarder of fiat currency to an accumulator of hard assets. Take a brutal look at your financial strategy and begin converting your depreciating cash into tangible, scarce resources that no government can print, whether that is real estate, precious metals, ownership in productive businesses, or uninflatable digital commodities. Dedicate time each week to aggressive financial education so you can see past the sterile jargon of central bankers. Protect the energy you have spent your life working for by anchoring it strictly to assets that hold intrinsic, undeniable value. Have you noticed the effects of inflation in your daily life recently? And what specific everyday item has shocked you the most with its sudden price increase? Please politely share your experiences in the comments section below so we can all learn from each other's perspectives. If you found this breakdown valuable and want to continue mastering your financial destiny, please hit that subscribe button. Your support fuels our channel and gives us the motivation to keep exposing the truth and creating more powerful content to help you build generational wealth.